Hi, I'm Anne, I'm from Ditsy Pips, and today I'm going to show you how to make a granny square right-handed. It's going to be a 3 round granny square, and I've got here some double knit yarn, a 4.5mm crochet hook, a pair of scissors and 5 stitch markers. So the very first thing that we're going to need to do is fasten the yarn onto the crochet hook. Now you can do this with a slip knot, or if this is the first time that you've done it, you can do it with a double knot to make life slightly easier. So all you do, take your tail end, bring it round and through to make a knot, and then do the same thing again, round and through. So you've got your yarn fastened on. Now I'm making this granny square today right-handed, so the crochet hook is going to be in my right hand and the yarn is going to be in my left hand. The granny square starts off with a chain of 4. To make a chain, you yarn over, so bring the hook round underneath the yarn like that, grab it, and we're going to slide it through the loop on the hook. So pull back through, and that's 1 chain. Now we're going to make another 3. So yarn over, pull back through the loop on the hook, that's 2, yarn over, pull back through the loop on the hook, that's 3, and 1 more, yarn over, pull back through the loop on the hook, and there we have our 4 chains. Now we need to make these chains into a ring, so what we're going to do is we're going to slip stitch into the very first chain that we made. That's the 4th chain from the hook. The loop that's on the hook doesn't count as a stitch, so if you were going to count them backwards it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, and each chain is a sort of V shape here. So there's your first one just there, there's the second, there's the third, this one's the 4th, right by the knot where you fastened on. To make the slip stitch, insert your crochet hook and pick up the top loop of that very first chain. Then yarn over and pull back through both of the 2 loops on your hook. 1, 2, like so. What that gives you is a circle or a ring of chains like this. All of the stitches from the next round are going to be made into the middle of this ring of chains. It's really easy to lose track of where the middle of this ring is. So what we're going to do is we're going to take one of our stitch markers and we're going to put it in the middle of that ring. So we take one of the stitch markers here, open it up. If you don't have a proper stitch marker, you can use a safety pin, you can use an earring, you can use a different coloured length of yarn. All of those work really well too. So here's the middle of the ring. I'm going to put the stitch marker in the middle like that there and just close it up. And that is the central ring finished. So let's go on to do round 1. Round 1 of the granny square is going to use 3 different stitches. It's going to use a chain stitch, we're going to use a US double crochet stitch, that's a treble crochet stitch if you're using UK terms, and we're going to use a slip stitch. Now the round starts with a chain of 3, so yarn over and pull through the loop on the hook, that's 1, and again is 2, and again is 3. Now when we finish the round off, we're going to need to make a slip stitch into this top chain here that we've just made. So what we're actually going to do is take another one of these stitch markers and pop that stitch marker in the top chain there so that we can find it nice and easily when we get to the end of the round. So the loop on the hook doesn't count, we're looking for this first V immediately underneath it. I'll take the stitch marker and pop it just in that chain. And we'll do it up, and then we don't have to worry about that at all until we get back to the end of the round. There we go. Now we're going to make 2 double crochet stitches into this central hole where the stitch marker is. To make the US double crochet stitch, UK treble, yarn over, insert the hook into the hole where the stitch marker is, yarn over, come back through the hole. Gives you 3 loops on your hook, yarn over through 2, yarn over through 2. That's our first double crochet stitch. Let's do another one. Yarn over, into the hole, yarn over, back through, yarn over through 2, yarn over through 2. Now our square for the first round is going to be made up of 4 groups of 3 stitches, and if you have a look at them you can see this is the first group of 3 stitches together, and we're looking at the vertical posts here, so the uprights of the stitch, and you can see that's 1, 2 and 3 stitches. So now we're going to make a corner, and we do that by doing a chain of 2. 1, 2. And now we're going to make our second group of 3, and we're going to go back into that middle hole again. So yarn over, insert the hook, yarn over, back through, yarn over through 2, yarn over through 2. And let's do 2 more of those. When you work into the middle of the ring of chains here, it's really important that you keep your stitches shuffled up close to each other. If they're too spread out around the ring as you make them, you may run out of room to make the next stitches. So every time you do them, make sure that they're nice and shuffled up together. We're going to make the next corner, and I'll show you what it looks like when they're spread out and how to fix it if that's a problem that you've got. So we're going to do 3 more double crochet stitches. There's one. I'll turn this a little bit and we'll do another one. And I'll turn it a bit more and we'll do another one. See, if they're a little bit more spread out round the ring, there's less room for the next stitches, and one of the things that can happen is that you can accidentally end up crocheting over the top of stitches you've already made because you've run out of room. So all you need to do is just take the stitches when you've done your group of 3 and pull the last stitch that you've made in one direction and pull the ring of chains in the other direction, and they should just slide and shuffle up together. So there we have a nice and tidy third group of stitches. And again, you can see from here we're looking at the verticals, so there's 1, 2, 3. Now we're going to do our next corner hole. So you do 2 more chains, and this is to form corner number 3. And we're going to do our last group of 3 double crochet stitches, all back into that hole again. 1, 2 and 3, like so, and then 2 more chains to make corner number 4. Now if we have a look at the square that we've just made, you can see that we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 groups of double crochet stitches. These are called clusters of stitches, so we've got 4 clusters here, and we've got 1, 2, 3 complete corners, and this corner up here, we just finish off this corner by making a slip stitch into this chain here that we marked with the stitch marker. So all we do to make the slip stitch, find where that blue stitch marker's gone in, insert your hook into the hole. Now if you haven't got the stitch marker in here, you're not 100% sure what you're looking at, we're looking for the third chain of the chain 3 that we did to start off with. So here, this is the bottom chain just here, this is the next chain up, and this is chain number 3. And if you see the loops on the side here, that bottom one is the first one, this is the second, this is the third. So we're going into this space just here. Now ideally when you go in to a stitch. You see I've gone into the middle of the stitch, so I'm not going into the hole between the chains and the post, not that big hole just there, but actually into the stitch itself. Let's move that stitch marker out of the way. See if you can see that there. When you go in to do a slip stitch, if you can, try and pick up 2 loops of yarn on your hook, because it will hold the slip stitch much tighter. Then we do a yarn over, and you're going to pull back through the stitch and back through the loop that's already on the hook. So back through the stitch and back through the loop on the hook, like that, and that's formed our square. Now I'm going to take these 2 stitch markers out. We don't need the one in the middle anymore. And we don't need the one that was in the top of the chain 3 because we've done that slip stitch. So that has finished round 1. And you see, we have a small square. Now, the first time that you make a granny square, you might find it quite helpful to be able to keep track of where the corner holes are. So at this stage, before we start the next round, what we're going to do is take 4 stitch markers, and we'll put 1 stitch marker in each of the 4 corner holes. So I'm going to take the white one first and put it into this corner hole right here, like so. And then we'll take the second one, pop it in here. The reason you might find it helpful to do it is once you start crocheting your second round, it's a little easy to get a bit disorientated as to where you are. So just having stitch markers in the corner holes will help you keep track of whereabouts on the square you are and how many clusters of double crochet stitches need to go into the hole that you're working on. And one last one into this corner hole up here, like so. Okay, so we're on to round 2. So let's have a look at round 2. Now, when we do the starting chain for round 2, so the chain of 3, we want that chain to be coming out of this white corner hole here, the one I've got marked with a white stitch marker. So what we need to do is we need to make some slip stitches to get us across to this corner. We did the slip stitch to join up at the end of this round here. What we're going to do next is we're going to slip stitch into the top of both of these 2 double crochet stitches, and then slip stitch into the corner hole itself. That way, when we start with a chain 3, the chain 3 will come out of the corner hole the same as the rest of the group of stitches in that cluster. Now, we've got 1 slip stitch. Remember we were looking at the vertical posts. I'll pull it sideways a little bit so that you can see them. We've got 1 slip stitch already into the top of the chain 3, which is this first vertical post right here. The next slip stitch that we need to do is in the top of the middle stitch of this group of 3. So you find the middle vertical post here, and we're going to make the slip stitch into the top of this stitch, so just in here. So insert your hook into that stitch and then yarn over, and we're going to come back through everything that we've got on the hook. So through the stitch and through the loop that was on the hook already. That's our first slip stitch of 3. Now we're going to slip stitch into the top of the last stitch in this group. So there's the vertical post, there's the hole at the top. We're going to go in there, yarn over, back through the stitch and through the loop on the hook, like so. And one last stitch, slip stitch, which is going to go into the corner hole just here. It's always a bit of a fiddle slip stitching into a hole, but you go into the hole and then yarn over, then you come back through the hole and through the loop on the hook. It always feels like there should be a little bit more to do with a slip stitch into a corner hole, but that's all there is to it. Now we're ready to start our next round, and now you see when we do our chain 3, it's going to come out of this corner hole. So let's do that chain 3. 1, 2, 3. And like we did last time, we're going to put a stitch marker in the top chain of the chain 3, so that when we come back round to the end of the round, you know where to do your slip stitch to join it all up. Let's just pop that in there like that and fasten that up like so. Now we're going to make 2 double crochet stitches into this white hole, the one that's marked with the white stitch marker. So yarn over into the hole, yarn over, back through, yarn over through 2, yarn over through 2. There's 1, and again. There's 2. Now that makes our first cluster. You see we have 3 vertical posts in the cluster because the chain of 3 counts as 1, and then 2 double crochet stitches is stitches 2 and 3 for the cluster. We're going to make the corner, so we do a chain of 2 and then 3 more double crochet stitches back into this corner hole marked with the white stitch marker. One, 2 and 3, like so. And we've made our first corner. Now each corner has 2 groups of 3 stitches, 1 for each side of the corner. So you've got 1 group of 3 that makes this side of the corner, 1 group of 3 that makes this side of the corner. Okay, now for this particular pattern, we're now going to make 1 chain and then move on to the next corner. Some granny square patterns don't have a chain in between your clusters, but this one does. So we do 1 chain and then we're going to do 3 doubles into the hole marked with the purple stitch marker. So 3 doubles in here. 1, 2 and 3. We're going to do 2 chains for the corner and then 3 more doubles back into the same hole marked with a purple stitch marker. 1, 2 and 3. And we're going to do exactly the same thing as we did on this side. So we do a chain 1 and we're on to the next corner. So next hole along is the corner that's marked with the black stitch marker, and in this corner we're going to do 3 double crochet stitches followed by 2 chains followed by 3 more double crochet stitches. 1, 2, 3, 2 chains, 3 more doubles. There we go. And 1 chain and on to the next corner hole. Now I'm going to pause at this stage and I'm just going to show you what can happen if you haven't got the hole marked with a stitch marker. So I'm going to take this stitch marker out of here and show you a really common problem that occurs. So what can happen is you go to make the first double crochet stitch into this corner hole like that, and it's quite easy to see where the corner hole is even though it's not marked because it's quite an obvious hole at this stage. So you make the first double crochet stitch into that hole, and then what can happen is that you go to make the second double crochet stitch but you lose track of the hole that you're supposed to be making it into. So if you look now, we've actually now got 1 hole here and a new hole that's opened up just here. Now that hole is actually the space between the cluster that you've just done and the next group of stitches, and it emerges as soon as you put your first double crochet stitch into the corner hole. If you make a mistake and instead of working into the corner hole, you actually work into this hole here, I'm going to finish the corner off and show you what it looks like, so that if you ever do it, you'll be able to identify what you've done. So that's the 2 more double crochet stitches of that cluster, and then 2 chains, and then 3 more double crochet stitches. So you work the corner as normal, you've just worked it into the wrong hole. Then when you look at the square, you see how you have this bulge off the side. On this side, it's all nicely in line and square, and let's move the tails out of the way so that you can see it. On this side here, you've got this odd bulge. That's because this is actually the corner hole just here, and this is the hole. This corner has been worked around the stitch instead of into the corner hole, and that's what's created this extra bulge. So if your granny square does this at any stage, that's likely to be what's happened. That's one of the reasons using stitch markers in your corner holes is really helpful, because if you have this hole marked with a stitch marker, you entirely prevent that problem from happening, because you can see where you're supposed to be working into every time. So let's just finish round 2 off properly with 3 double crochet stitches, 2 chains and 3 doubles going into the corner hole marked with a blue stitch marker. So there's 1 double, 2 doubles, 3 doubles, 2 chains and 3 more double crochet stitches. And to finish this round off, we need to slip stitch into the top of the chain 3, and that's the one marked with the green stitch marker. You see the hole that opens up when I wiggle the green stitch marker around? There's a hole just there. Can you see it? Let's bring it up a bit closer. There's the hole. That's where we're going in to do our slip stitch. So we're going to go into that hole, and again you should be able to see there's 2 lengths of yarn sat on the top of my crochet hook. I'm going to slide that one over there so it's out of the way. You yarn over, pull back through the stitch and through the loop that's on your hook. There's the slip stitch, and there is round 2 of our granny square complete. We're going to take all the stitch markers out and get ready for round 3. Now, before we actually start crocheting round 3, what we're going to do is we're going to mark the 4 corner holes again with our stitch markers, just like we did before. So our first corner hole is just here. There's the white stitch marker into the hole itself, in there. And then we're going to take the purple one and put it into our next corner hole, which is down here. We'll take the black one, put it into our 3rd corner hole, which is here. And the blue one's going to go into corner hole number 4 up here. Now, from round 3 onwards, what you'll see start to emerge on your granny square is corner holes and side holes. So if I bring this up a bit closer, you can see we've got 1 corner hole up here, 1 corner hole down here, and a side hole just here. There's another side hole in the middle of the bottom edge, 1 in the here and 1 in the top edge up here. Whenever you are making a granny square, we're going to make 2 groups of 3 double crochet stitches into the corner holes. So we do 3 doubles, 2 chains, 3 doubles into the corner hole. And then when we come to a side hole, we just do 1 group of 3 double crochet stitches into the hole in the side edges. As your granny square grows and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, you'll find you have more side holes emerging every round that your square increases in size. So the next round along will have more than this one does. You'll always have only 4 corners, but you'll have an increasing number of side holes. Now, before we start round 3, we need to do exactly the same as we did at the start of round 2, and we need to do our slip stitches to get us across to the corner hole. So we're looking at this first group of 3 stitches just here, 1, 2, 3. We did our first slip stitch to join the round up that went into the top of the chain 3, so into the top of the first group of 3, first of the group of 3 just here. We're going to slip stitch into the top of the middle stitch in that group. So there's the top of the stitch just there. If ever in doubt, find the post and then work your way up. There's the top of the stitch, so you go in, yarn over, back through the stitch and back through the loop on the hook. And then into the top of the next stitch in our group of 3. In, yarn over, back through the stitch and back through the loop on the hook, and then into the corner hole itself. So into the hole, yarn over, back through the hole, back through the loop on the hook, like so. And we're ready to start with the starting chain for round 3. So 1, 2, 3 chains, and we're going to put the stitch marker in the top of that chain 3. So again, the loop on the hook doesn't count as a stitch. Pop that in there like that, do it up. And 2 double crochet stitches into the hole marked with the white stitch marker. So that's 1, 2 doubles. Now we're going to make the corner hole, so 2 chains, 3 more doubles back into the same hole marked with the white stitch marker. 1, 2, 3. That's our first corner done. Now we're going to do a chain of 1, and now we're on to our side hole just here. So we're going to make 3 double crochet stitches into that side hole. 1, 2, and 3. That's that cluster finished. 1 chain, and we're on to the next corner. So 3 doubles, 2 chains, 3 doubles into the hole marked with a purple stitch marker. One, 2 chains, 3 more doubles, and always into that corner hole. Now we've got the first complete side edge, and as you see on the next round that we do, which would be round 4, which we're not going to cover in this video, but if we did, we would have 2 side holes to work into next time. So you do your corner hole, and then you do 1 group of 3 in here, 1 group of 3 in here, and then your corner as normal. I'm going to come round and finish off the next 2 sides of here. So we're going to do chain 1, 3 doubles into the side hole, chain 1, corner. Remember the corner is 3 doubles, 2 chains, 3 doubles. Then chain 1, 3 doubles, chain 1, and then back into your corner. And I will come back to you as soon as I've done it. Right, here we go. So we've nearly finished round 3. I've done 3 doubles, 2 chains, 3 doubles in my final corner hole, and then I've done a chain 1. Now I'm going to make 3 double crochet stitches into the side hole on side number 4, like so, and then we do 1 chain and slip stitch into the top of the chain 3 where the green stitch marker is to finish it off. So in, there's the 2 loops of yarn on the hook, yarn over, back through, pull back through everything, like so. Now I'm going to show you a really tidy way to finish off. So I'm going to cut the yarn and leave myself a tail that's at least 10, maybe 15 centimetres long. And I'm going to take this stitch marker out of here so that I can show you more clearly without things being in the way. What you can do to finish off at this stage is you can just yarn over and pull through the loop on your hook like that. But it leaves you with a little bit of a lump on this edge. And if you see, the rest of the granny square, it's really nice and neat, with a little bit of a lump up here. That doesn't work. So let's unpick that fastening off, like so. And we get back to the point here where we've just done our slip stitch to join up. Now what we're going to do is we're going to fasten off into the next stitch. So take your crochet hook out of the loop, and we're going to insert the crochet hook into the next stitch along, which is just this one, just here. But instead of going in from the front, you bring the crochet hook in from the back and pick up that middle stitch there like that. Then you sit your crochet hook over the top into the loop like that, and then use the hook to pull the loop through to the back of your crochet so it's all nice and smooth and tidy on the front. Turn it over, take your tail, do a yarn over with the tail and pull through the loop on your hook and keep pulling all the way through. And then when you pull the tail to tighten it up, what you'll see is that your knot ends up being below the line of the stitches. So the top of the line of the stitches is here, and if we look at that loop just there, that sits below the line of your stitches. So you end up with a really tidy finish on your square. And that's it. Thank you for watching.